Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of Another Pass, where we talk about movies and all the struggles that go into making them. If you like it, check out the whole podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
I do want to bring up, talking about this movie, this is third movie syndrome, which, Maynard, this is my hypothesis that third movies in sequences often are trying to reflect the first movie after the second one, regardless of if it was successful or not, deviated in some ways. And talking about Escape from the Planet of the Apes, if you're not familiar with this movie, audience, this is the one where it flips the script from the original movie, where instead of it being a human in a society full of apes, they take apes from the future and bring them back in time and put it in our society and have them play out effectively a mirrored version of the story from the first one.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly, the brilliance of it is partially, it is mirrored, right? Because when the apes get to Earth in the modern day, when Cornelius and Zira and
Yep.
and
And
Dr. Milo get here, all the humans are really, really nice to them. Like that's the unusual thing is they are overly kind to these talking creatures that they probably should have locked up from the get and tried to lobotomize and dissect and figure out. But instead they treat them, way different than the way Taylor is treated in the first movie, right? I mean, Taylor's not put up in a hotel, he's not interviewed by all the social magazines and brought to big parties and brought to boxing matches and all that. So in that case, that one's an absolute mirror, in that it kind of flips to the negative.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it does make sense though that they do that because when Maynard arrives, they kind of have like an idea, right, of like what they believe humans are like, and they are shocked that he has speech, but like for the people in the 70s that these apes are going back to, this is a novelty, and what would they do? Of course they would parade them around. I'm surprised there wasn't like a night show kind of thing, So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They might treat them like a freak attraction.
I think ultimately that would have been their fate if the movie doesn't take the darker turn at the very end.
Yeah, the point is, there's probably a million parallel universes where this exact same thing happened. This is the only one that they live as long as they do, and this timeline gets to kick off. Because in all of the other ones, they're being lobotomized, they're being dissected, they're being burned at the stake, they're being persecuted as devils or aliens or something. The revelation they make in the middle when they realize that they dissect humans in their time, all the scientists, kind of politicians, are very nonchalant. Well, that's no different than we treat animals now. That's not the way humans behave. Humans, when humans do not think humans deserve to be treated like animals. Like, we are special, we're made by God, we have souls. That's the popular consensus. So it's like, oh, these soulless apes dissected humans even in a weird future. They'd be furious. The public would absolutely throw them under the bus at that point.
Yeah, if that had fully come out. And I mean, there is Dr. Hassline, who is not very open to the idea of like apes being the grandmasters of the world and experimenting on humans.
Yeah, he's the human Zaius, absolutely. Yeah. But also, he's completely right. The thing about Hassline is he's completely right. These apes are here, they're intelligent, they're pregnant, they're talking about coming from a future where apes have taken over, and he's absolutely right. Kill the unborn ape baby. Sterilize these two, because they're going to potentially lead to our downfall. He doesn't know that it's a nuclear war and all that stuff. It's not the information he got. He thinks the apes overthrow man rather than man destroying man and the apes step in. But with the information he has, he's totally right. His behavior's justified.
Which is kind of crazy, because that is like Dr. Zaius in a certain regard. Like, he is aware that humanity did so much damage to themselves and is trying to paternalistically control his society, but protect them in that regard.
Hashtag Zaius was right.
A monster, the way he goes about it.
Agree to disagree.
Well, I mean, like, it's a complicated thing there, because he does really bad stuff to Taylor specifically. They have this in this futuristic, very theocratic, very conservative society, and I think that deliberately this movie is trying to look at that depiction that we got in the original and trying to then reflect it on our society specifically, and kind of like trying to cast shade on like 70s liberalism. Like there is this element of it's like, okay, well, we are accepting of them as long as they're safe. But once we know that they're pregnant and that this is part of this whole sequence that's going to lead to our downfall, you know, aside from the like batshit scene of the president being like, I don't know about due process and all this, where I'm like, real presidents wouldn't do that. They would just like, yeah, go for it, kill him.
Yeah.
They put up a little.
Well, I think as a political move, I buy it, right? Where he's like, you know, elections in November, elections in November.
Yeah.
You know, you stupid country. He's like, you know, if they're not going to overthrow the planet in my term, then I don't care.
Right.
Right.
And our villain does make a point, like, well, we don't care, you know, about, he brings up a bunch of stuff. We don't care about nuclear things. We don't care about, you know, climate. We don't care about anything. We keep leaving things off. And he's like, this is the one thing on his list that he can get done now.
Right.
Kill the baby ape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that the apes would have ended up as like some kind of freak show had they been sterilized but left to live at the end of this all. And I think that was supposed to be like, yeah, like we like to think of ourselves as kinder than the society of the apes in the Planet of the Apes. We'd like to think of ourselves as less destructive. And I think that this movie is trying to be like, look at how inviting we seem until we are threatened, and then we are just as brutal and scary as the apes that we were condemning in the first one. It's the way that the first movie is trying to reflect human society. This movie is then like making a second reflection point.
Remember, if you like that clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.